Let me tell you something in the simplest way I can, because I want you to feel it, not just hear it. Have you ever wondered why you rush to fix everyone's emotions before you even check your own? Why you can walk into a room and instantly sense tension even before anyone speaks? Why you apologize for things that aren't your fault, like you're carrying a debt you don't remember creating? There's a reason for all of that, and it isn't random. Some people didn't become caretakers because they're naturally selfless or endlessly kind. They became caretakers because life trained them to be. Not with lessons, not with gentle guidance, but with silence, with chaos, with the feeling that love only came when they held everything together. And deep down, some part of you still believes that's your job. So stay with me, because the story I'm about to unfold isn't really about psychology. It's about you. And maybe you've carried this weight for so long that you stopped noticing it. That's how childhood trains you, quietly, subtly, without asking for permission. It teaches you to read every room like a map of danger. It teaches you to soothe others before they erupt. It teaches you that love is something you earn by fixing, absorbing, or smoothing things over. But here's the truth I need you to sit with as we continue. None of that was your fault. You adapted to survive, and those adaptations became your personality. But personality is not destiny. It's just a story your nervous system has been telling your mind for years. A story we're going to slowly, gently rewrite together. Before we go deeper, I want you to notice something. The world praises people like you, the strong one, the steady one, the one who has it together. But here's the contradiction. The praise almost never feels good. Because deep down, you know the praise is for the version of you that never gets to rest. The version of you that learned to swallow your needs so no one else would choke on theirs. We're going to talk about that version of you, and the one beneath it. The one who never got to be held. The one who learned to survive by becoming indispensable. Let's walk slowly into the next layer. You see, when a child grows up in a home where chaos hums underneath the floorboards, they learn to listen for earthquakes before anyone else feels the tremor. Maybe it was a parent who was unpredictable, gentle one moment, explosive the next. Maybe it was silence that felt like walking through a field of hidden traps. Maybe it was the pressure to be older than you were, wiser than you should have been, calmer than any child has the right to be. You didn't wake up one morning and choose to be the caretaker. You were drafted into that role long before you even had a name for it. You learned to predict moods the way sailors predict storms. You learned to hold your breath when someone else's emotions filled the room. And you learned, painfully, repeatedly, that your needs were negotiable, but their needs were urgent. Let me tell you something most people never hear. Children who become caretakers aren't weak. They are hyper-intelligent emotional strategists. They're the ones who sensed the shift in someone's voice before the words even landed. They're the ones who knew how to keep peace, how to soften, how to shrink themselves so someone else wouldn't break. But there's a cost. A quiet one. The kind that doesn't show up until years later, when you start wondering why love feels heavy, why rest feels guilty, why asking for help feels like you're committing a crime. Sit with this question for a moment. When did helping stop being a choice and start being your identity? We're going deeper. There's a story I want to bring you into next, one that mirrors what so many caretakers live through, even if the details look different on the surface. Imagine a house where the lights never really go off, not because anyone is awake, but because everyone is on alert. In this house lives a child who knows the rhythm of footsteps better than the rhythm of their own heartbeat. They can tell the difference between a door closing gently and a door closing with tension. They know which nights will be quiet and which nights will feel like walking across the floor of glass. In this house, the child learns something silently, almost without realizing it. If I can keep everyone calm, maybe I'll finally feel safe. And so they try. They carry the emotional temperature of the room like a second skin. They become the peacemaker, the helper, the fixer, the one who knows how to swallow fear before anyone sees it. They're applauded for being mature, responsible, wise beyond their years. But inside, they're just trying to survive. Now here's the part most people don't understand. When a child becomes the caretaker, they don't grow up with a stable sense of self. Their identity forms around usefulness, around appeasing, around managing chaos. They learn to disappear into other people's needs because no one taught them that theirs mattered. And later, as adults, they wonder why they feel invisible, why relationships feel lopsided, why they're attracted to people who take, or people who lean too heavily, or people who mistake endurance for love. Let me ask you something, gently. When was the last time you allowed yourself to be cared for without apologizing for it? If you had to think about it, that tells me everything. But don't worry, we're not here to blame your past. We're here to understand it so you can finally loosen the grip it has on your present. Next, I want to bring you into another story, not of a child this time, but of a future version of you. A version who learned something powerful about release, boundaries, and the kind of love that doesn't require self-erasure. Let's step into that future version of you, slowly, carefully, like someone approaching a door they've never dared to open. Picture this: a room filled with warm light, a space where nothing is breaking, nothing is waiting to explode. No one is scanning you for what you can offer. And in the center of that room is you. Not the version that performs, not the version that anticipates, not the version that edits itself to fit the emotional weather of everyone else. Just you. At first, you won't recognize yourself. That's normal. When you've lived your whole life as a mirror for others, meeting the real you feels like meeting a stranger. You might even feel guilty, restless, unsafe in the stillness, because silence, for most of your life, wasn't peaceful. It was a warning. But this version of you is learning something your younger self never got the chance to learn. Safety isn't earned. Love isn't negotiated. Rest isn't a reward. And your worth isn't measured by how much you hold together. This future you moves differently. They don't rush to fill every silence. They don't apologize for taking up space. They don't shrink when someone else is uncomfortable. They know, deeply, quietly, that someone else's storm is not their responsibility to calm. And here's the part that might surprise you. They still care. They're still kind. They're still deeply attuned to others. But now, it's not survival. It's choice. That's the shift we're walking toward. A life where your empathy isn't a burden, but a gift you give with intention, not obligation. A life where your boundaries aren't walls, but windows that let in the right people and keep out the wrong ones. And if this version of you feels impossible right now, stay with me, because the next part matters. There comes a moment, and it happens differently for everyone, when the caretaker finally feels the exhaustion they've been outrunning for years. Not the kind of exhaustion sleep fixes, the kind that comes from decades of being emotionally on call. And when that moment hits, you don't break, you awaken. You start noticing things you once ignored.
The way your body tightens when someone hints at needing you. The way your heart races when someone is upset, even if it has nothing to do with you. The way you say, "I'm fine," out of muscle memory, not truth. Awareness is uncomfortable, but it's also the first doorway to healing. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And once you name your needs, you can't keep pretending they don't exist. This is where the real transformation begins, not in dramatic moments, but in small, quiet rebellions. Saying no without over-explaining. Taking a deep breath instead of taking responsibility. Choosing rest even when guilt whispers otherwise. Letting someone care for you without flinching. These moments are tiny, but together, they rewrite the story your nervous system has been clinging to for years. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, something shifts. You stop treating yourself like an afterthought. You stop bending into shapes that hurt. You stop giving love in ways that cost you pieces of yourself. You begin to belong to yourself again. But we're not done. There's one more layer. The one most people never reach because it requires a kind of courage no one ever taught you to have. The courage to disappoint people. I know, even reading that feels wrong. Disappointment was the danger zone of your childhood, the trigger, the thing you worked your entire life to avoid. But listen closely. Disappointing someone is not the same as abandoning them. Setting a boundary is not the same as being unkind. Choosing yourself is not the same as betraying others. This final layer, this ability to let people feel what they feel without taking it into your bones, is what frees you. It's what breaks the cycle. It's what lets you rebuild a life where you're no longer living as an emotional first responder. And when you reach this point, even partially, something beautiful happens. You stop attracting people who only want your strength. You begin meeting people who value your softness. People who don't just take, but give. People who don't just lean on you, but stand beside you. People who don't just love the caretaker in you, but the human beneath it. That's the version of your story we're walking toward. Not the story of someone who stops caring, but the story of someone who finally learns to include themselves in the circle of people they protect. And trust me, that's where your real life begins.